Hello everybody and welcome to Humk Design Factory Workshops 3D Modeling with Blender Lecture 1. So this is gonna be Introduction to Blender view. So introduction to 3D and 3D modeling with Blender. So as inspiration for you, 3D is everywhere nowadays. It's used in advertising, entertainment, education, construction, product design, and many other fields as well. And also it's modern mass media use 3D and it's really growing. First, I got into 3D when I saw James Cameron's Avatar in 2009, and I really was interested in growing and really was interested in knowing how these 3D elements are made. Also, learning 3D is fun and useful for your future work. And in order to create 3D, you need 3D environment, and Blender is great because it's free. And some of the industry standards cost over 6,000 euros for 1 year license. Is there student pricing available? Maybe, but it's a really easy step to start working with Blender. It's open source, made with Python. It has great community, lots of tutorial videos like this one. And the newest version is currently version 3.1.2, and it comes out regularly, so you can download that. And on the left side there are a couple of images. So everything is possible made with Blender. You can take a look at these images and renders as well. Here you can see a little animation, so it has also a built-in game engine inside, so it's possible to move the camera, build all the lightings, reflections, rendering, and also produce videos that are realistic or unrealistic, how you want it to go. Okay, and also it's made for movies, so there is also Spring that is made 2019, many other movies, but actually in Spring only Blender is used, maybe some other applications as well, but mainly Blender. So this is completely utilized Blender's functionality, and we're gonna take a look at that movie. And welcome back. So the structure has 4 lectures, about 20 to 30 minutes. Maybe this first lecture is a little bit longer because of the video. But the first lecture, we're gonna have just the introduction to 3D modeling and 3D basics. We also have a upper level YAM key extra task that is Blender modifier research. You don't have to do that if you are attending the just basic course. And then we also have this continuation course, which is working with Unity 3D and Blender. So Unity 3D. Okay, so learning objectives are here to learn the basics of modeling, use the interface. And we have 4 different workshops and then the final task that is kind of combining everything that we have learned here. And it's going to be pass or fail. Requirements for this is that is a mouse. So mouse is a definite thing. So you use keyboard and mouse, and it's very difficult with the trackpad. You can use laptop of course, but I recommend using a mouse with your laptop. Also, external screen is very helpful if you are watching tutorials at the same time than you are 3D modeling. So you can add your actually presenter view here, and then you can watch the tutorials there and do the blender on other screen. And then there are keyboard shortcuts that you can print out for you as well, and learn to use those shortcuts because it's pretty useful, and have a good attitude there. So I'm gonna also add these shortcuts, so you can find your own on Google, but some of the really used shortcuts are here highlighted. Okay, let's get Blender. So first you can see the first view of Blender here. So you have the 3D view. When you open up Blender, we're gonna do that really soon. On the left hand side there is tools, workspaces. You can select different layout, modeling, whatever, but we are gonna use the layout the most at the moment. And then upcoming courses gonna consist more of these. We have different viewports. We have the outliner menu where all your objects are located, lighting and so on. We have the properties menu on the right hand side, and then we have the object menu. One of the quick favorite things we're gonna do here that you can see and you can investigate the object really easily, and also you can change your space bar to search. You don't have to do it because it's F3 with regular computer. If you are using laptop, you can go to settings and emulate your numpad. We're gonna take a look at that. So the basic concept in 3D is this. We have a cube. Then we have vertex, which are these small dots here that can be manipulated and can be pulled. So plural of these are vertices. So we are talking about vertices. So all of these yellow highlighted small dots here are vertices. So 8 together in a cube. It's a point in space. Then there's edge. Edge is this line here, and it connects 2 points, 2 vertices, and has a direction and length. Then we have face. So face is basically the vast area of this object here. So that's face. It connects 3 or more vertices usually, and it has the area but no volume. And then we have mesh, like this dog here. That's a mesh, and it has many vertices. So it's very common in 3D to have meshes with millions of vertices, and it can be modeled endlessly with the computer. So a cube has 8 vertices, 6 faces, and 12 edges, and mesh of 1 million plus vertices is not uncommon. So basically our first workshop goes like this. So hopefully you have already installed Blender. We're gonna get familiar with the user interface just a little bit, and you're gonna dig deeper there as well. Basic shapes and primitives, moving the UI and placing items, and then modeling a basic house using just basic extrusion shortcut, and then merging those vertices together. And then modeling a pile from cubes, and then we have a little Easter egg here in the end if we have time. So we have fire simulation. And the learning here is, and I don't know how to make it, but I'll find a way. So let's get Blender. I'm actually going to close this presentation. Okay, first you're gonna open up Blender. My Blender version is 3.1.2, so this appears. When you click your mouse, you will get to the 3D view, and by middle mouse clicking you can circulate around the object. So there's already a cube here. So by middle mouse button pressed, you can circulate around the object. So here are a couple of shortcuts. If you are clicking on Control and then middle mouse button, you can kind of hover nicely towards the object without kind of, if you scroll up and down, this is kind of a scrunchy way of doing it. Then by Shift and middle mouse clicking, you can kind of circulate, or you can kind of hover over the object and move its location. Okay, so here we have a couple of tools. So we have the 3D cursor that is basically where all the objects gonna appear. So you can change the 3D cursor location by right-clicking when you are pressing Shift. So then you can change the location of your 3D cursor, and then you can add the object accordingly. But when we have this object here, we have possibility to move it using this move tool. So here it's possible to move the cube around a little bit like this and modify it. And we have three different axes. So we have Z axis here, we have X axis here, and we have Y axis. And make sure in Blender the Z axis is pointing up. So you can pull it up using Z axis, X axis, or Y axis. Remember, if you are moving this and then clicking on right mouse button, it goes back, and when kind of releasing the left mouse button, it stays there. And Control Z, you can undo whatever you do for 20 times or so, or even more. Then we have the rotation, which hotkeys, by the way, are. And then you can enable different axes by clicking on Y, Z, or X by rotating from different axes. Here, when you are using this tool, you can also rotate it using these handles. So like this. I'm not clicking on like this. If you click on left mouse button again, if you release it, it stays there. Then we have the scale option. So basically, if you are using this white line, you can scale it up and down quite nicely as a whole. And then you can scale it using these Z, X, Y handles as well. So using the Z handle, using the X handle, and then the Y handle too, or the whole cube. And then this is funny. There is line of transform where all of these are combined as well. So basically, you can make it bigger here. Okay, that's a funny way to do it. Okay, and here for laptop users, if you are using laptops, please go to Preferences. So Edit, Preferences, and then here Input. And here under Keyboard, you must emulate your numpad in order to use the numpad correctly. So if I'm, for example, with my laptop right now, so if I'm clicking on 1, I'm getting the front orthographic view, and 7, I'm getting the top view of my model. So basically, lots of blendering is doing with this front view on, so that's quite handy. If you messed something, go to File, New, General, don't save this time, and then create a new cube. All right, so like I said previously, we have some objects here already. We have a lighting, so we can actually hide from the viewport the lighting and the camera as well. So we can see only the cube. And as I mentioned before, you can click on 1 to get a kind of front orthographic view. And then by Shift right clicking, you can change the position of your 3D cursor in order to add more objects. So we're gonna create few primitives here on the row. So here you can see that if you're on the front orthographic view and click on this, you can see that it's it's kind of positioning those objects nicely. So here you can add objects by clicking on here, add mesh, but it's much easier to add objects by shortcut Shift A. So it brings up this menu, and let's try plane. So plane is just a basically basic ground that you can use. Let's try another one. Let's add a circle. Circle is an object that many of the 3D models are started with. Let's start putting a UV sphere. So UV sphere is here. Okay, now when I'm kind of clicking on this and I want to investigate, it's quite tricky. So what I would do here is to enable quick favorites. So Q in your numpad. So if you are clicking on Q, there is no things selected. So basically, when you go to the View menu and then add to Quick Favorites, so you find your object here and then adding them to Quick Favorites like this. So this one. Frame selected, and when you go to View, frame selected, and then right clicking on top of it. Right click on top of it and add to quick favorites. So basically then you go to frame selected by using this quick button. So now you will be able to select your object however you want. Okay, let's add a couple of more. So let's go to front view and then shift right click and then Shift A, and let's add icosphere, and let's add a cylinder, and let's add a Shift A, a cone, and then let's add a torus. Okay, now we have quite many things selected here. So there might be also the tilde key in your keyboard that you don't have to use the quick favorites, but just this is one of the easiest ways to kind of navigate here. Also, by right clicking here, you can select the shading. So shade flat is by default, and shade smooth create this kind of smooth detail. And here one of the basic things of 3D modeling is that if you go to object mode, you usually switch between these two. So you can go between edit and object mode by clicking on tab. And these you can actually scale up by using S and R. Let's try this one so you see it better. So R, and by along the axis like this. Okay, so these are the primitives. So play around a little bit with this and stop the video and feel free to kind of study on your own a little bit, and we're gonna continue with the next thing. So I'm gonna hide the camera and lighting here, and we are going to make a basic house using extrusion and merging. So here I'm going to switch between two modes. So basically the 3D modeling mode is the edit mode, and here you add all the modifiers and so on. But in edit mode you can access these vertices. So basically if you go to edit mode, you can select these vertices individually. You can select these vertices by shift clicking and select multiple vertices, or you can select the whole line, whole circle of vertices by clicking on Alt. Okay. What we want to use here is to use the selection mode. So we have three different selection modes like I was talking about last time. So we have the vertex select mode where we can see all the vertices. Then we have the edge selection mode where we can select all of the edges. And then we have the face selection mode where you can select the faces. So when you have this cube here, select this face selection mode. Left click on top of the cube that it becomes active. And then when it's active, click on E equals extrude. So it's gonna extrude the actual face from the cube. So when you click on Control, you can kind of use steps in order to go extrude certain amount. So let's extrude it half. So by clicking on Control, push Control down, and then pull it up. Okay. Then we go back to vertex select mode and select these two vertices by shift clicking 1 and then shift left clicking 2. And then right clicking, we can go to this menu. And then we see merge vertices and go at center. Quicker way to do this is to select these vertices and click on M on your keyboard and then at center. Ta-da! So it creates this kind of nice house. Okay, then go ahead and experience by yourself. Go back and forth with the video if you didn't already do. And then let's do one more exercise here. So we're gonna also model a pile. So here on upper corner you have this magnet that is called snap. So when you are basically having many of cubes like this, let's create one more. It's really hard to place these objects around the scene. It becomes weird. By the way, you can erase this one by clicking on X and then delete. Okay, so select this snap option, and then when you click on Shift D, that duplicates the thing. You can see that it's kind of snapping around the 3D view. It doesn't matter, but you have to probably use here a front view, and then going by your middle mouse button, going back a little bit. Okay, we are gonna create a pile, just a basic pile, by duplicating these cubes. So like in a Minecraft game, there are lots of this kind of graphic that is really simple and made out of boxes basically. So if you want to make more of these boxes, just click on Shift D and then pull it up. Shift D, pull it up like 10 times. Pull it up, pull it up, pull it up, pull it up, and then a couple of more like this. And you can see that now we have many cubes here. We want to aim to do like a Roman style of pile, so we need to make this bigger. You can make this bigger by clicking on S, but that's not very incremental and correct way of doing it, because some of the vertices and models are overlapping, and that's not good in 3D design. So if you click on N, you can see that all the scale menus per object are located here. They are also located here. So you can basically use object properties to change the scale. So we want to make this a little bit bigger. So this actual same menu of scale is with using this N letter. So let's change this to 2 meters and also y-axis to 2 meters. So you can see that this is looking nicer now. And let's change this to 1.5 meters and 1.5 meters. And let's do this to this lower one as well. So 2 and 2. Oops, something happened. I think I mistakenly changed the z-axis. Okay, and 2. And then 1.5, 1.5. Okay, nice. So now we have the basic pile here, and if you select everything, you can actually duplicate the whole thing by clicking on Shift D. And here it really helps if you do the front view and then you select all by kind of tracking your mouse regular style and then Shift D, and then you can actually add more of these here. And now we just want to add a basic plane here. Let's scale it up a little bit like this, and then selecting all of these. So I'm also wanting to show you some of the basic physics here. So if I'm adding if I'm making a rigid body, this is kind of actually extra, but if I'm making a rigid body here and set this active, and then I select the plane and set this rigid body as passive, and actually I'm gonna grab this here by G to make it a little bit lower, maybe a little bit more actually, I don't see. Okay, so when I made this active, I can access to Unity's rigid body kind of physics engine, and if you are clicking on play here, you should see that that there are physics added there as well. Quite cool. Yep, that's it. That was a little bit extra, but you see where 3D is capable of. You can now render the image, for example, how you want it by actually clicking on F12. But you need to make sure that you have the camera there. Camera view is, by the way, 0, and if you want to move the camera, this gonna be the next thing. You need to change the position and then render the image so you can see the image there. But anyway, play a little bit with the basic cube and try to navigate here and watch this tutorial again if you want. I think we have time for one more extra Easter egg. So let's get rid of this light and camera, and I'm gonna actually build this house really quickly again, and I'm selecting these and merging them at center. Okay, so when we are in object mode, I'm gonna select the house, and then I get everything menu I want by clicking F3, and I'm gonna use smoke. So F3 smoke, you can see these quick effects appearing. It's part of physics engine in Blender. When you click on cube, you go all the way to physics. You can make the flow. You can change the flow type to fire and smoke. And when you play this by pressing space or this, you should see this. So quite cool. So you can make this to any object. So that's how easy it is. So this was kind of extra. We didn't go any deeper of that right now. This is basically modeling. But thank you very much. I'll put the material there. Practice your use, and welcome to the next lecture soon. Thank you, everybody, and see you.